Hello. There's been a lot of talk lately about the war on waste. Well, a South Australian composting company is way ahead of the curve, having invented a special bin which starts composting piggery, chicken farm and restaurant waste on site. The bio bins are now being sold across Australia and the world. But as Prue Adams reports, it's not the only way Peats Soils is making use of waste which would otherwise be sent to landfill. And a warning, this story contains footage of dead animals.
Adelaide Oval. It's one of South Australia's most recognisable landmarks. But it's what goes on behind the scenes of the cricket and footy games that most people don't see. There's an army of kitchen staff working in 25 different function areas, putting together thousands of meals each week. And with that food preparation comes a lot of vegetable, fruit and meat scraps. Over 3 tonnes of it each year. Instead of wasting this resource, sending it to landfill, where the rotting food produces the greenhouse gas methane, chefs around the country are increasingly tipping their offcuts into something called a bio bin.
We started making potting mix for our father when we were sort of 10 and 12 before we were allowed to go and play footy, and then we grew into a nursery business, and then we got into organics when governments decided that we're going to recycle organics.
Peter Wadowitz is what you'd call an ideas man. Although he says those ideas don't keep him awake at night.
I sleep like a log. My wife cannot believe how easy and how long I sleep and how well I sleep. What are you doing here, mate?
Replacing the rubber on.
In his waking hours, though, the newly appointed chair of the Australian Organic Recycling Association is constantly thinking about how to make use of food and farm waste.
Something like 2 billion tonne a year around the world is going to landfill. What a waste.
Over a decade ago, he developed the bio bin, a mobile unit that's placed near restaurants, supermarkets and bakeries, but also at vineyards, piggeries and chicken farms. This is not a pretty sight. The downside of chicken and egg production is there will be dead birds. It's made a little easier to stomach when you know within a few months this will become compost that'll help enrich farmland. It's Matt Keating's job to pick up the bins when they're full. And he goes to some interesting places, including a local open-range zoo.
We had a rather large critter came out, the last one, which had long horns. I'm not sure what exactly it was. And I was told there may have been a lion in there. They lost a lion recently, a couple of months ago, but once again, I don't go out of my way to look in the bins after I've tipped them.
I don't blame you, I wouldn't look in there either. What makes BioBin more than just a metal box is that there is air pumped at regular intervals, starting the composting process and killing the pathogens. Peter Wadowitz explained the system when he appeared on The New Inventors back in 2005.
So you get your stuff in, you get your meat and all that sort of waste product in, you close the lids, and then you turn on the air compressor. Righto, turn that off, but that pumps the oxygen through.
Circulates it through the biofilter, which is full of organic microorganisms. That'll clean it, send it back through and blow it back up again. You just continue that, and it does it 2 hours on and 2 hours off.
Around 500 biobins have been built, most of them distributed around Australia, but dozens have also been exported to the United States, China and the Middle East.
Done a little trial in China, got a long way to go there. There's plenty of waste up there. We've got them in America, we've got them in the UAE. I mean, those places, of all places, that need organic matter because it's just sand.
And that brings us to the other end of this waste collecting system. At the Peats soil site, southeast of Adelaide, the piles of partially composted material are really the prize in this process. Every year, this company deals with 100 to 150,000 tonnes of organic material. They collect it via the biobins, but also have contracts with councils to take the green waste. After manually picking out the non-compostable materials, the rest is turned into a carbon-rich, water-retentive soil conditioner that goes back to gardens, farms and vineyards.
So they want to get all this organic matter out of landfill. That's one of the drivers, but the second driver, and I think the most important driver, is getting this organic waste back out to farming. It's so important to build our organic matter and our carbon in our soils. Well, agronomists for years have known that, sustainable agriculture is, you've got to get to 2 to 4% carbon in your soil. And most of our soils around, particularly South Australia and into the Wimmera, is, 0.5% carbon. And so this material can get in there, and the composting process makes it so it'll actually stay a long time in the soil. The microbes won't eat it off. Some of the materials we're producing now will last 25, 50, 100 years in the soil.
To make it easier for farmers to use the composted material, Peter Wadowitz has started playing around with a pelletiser. The pellets can be custom designed by adding gypsum or clay or whatever is required by the farmer, and can be incorporated at seeding time.
So getting that down the air seeder right next to where the seed is, it's just going to build up that carbon level in the soil.
The term increasingly used in composting quarters is the circular economy.
I would say this is one of the leading examples in Australia in the organics recycling industry of tapping into the circular economy. Historically, we've had very much a linear economy where we've extracted natural resources, we've manufactured goods from them, we've used those goods and then we've disposed of them and we've buried them in a hole. The circular economy is taking a look at doing more recycling.
Apart from the bio bins, there is another element of this circular economy being practiced at the compost company. Behind me, you can see a front-end loader being filled with biodiesel, made from the grease collected from cafes, restaurants and supermarkets. In fact, Peter Wadowitz is working towards having his entire transport fleet and equipment run on his own biodiesel.
Fast food outlets, fish and chip shops and other cafes and supermarkets all use and need to dispose of grease. The washdown water and fats from cooking and processing are funnelled into underground waste tanks. Then every day, in every part of the world, large tankers suck out the foul-smelling liquid. It's usually then disposed of at some off-site repository. But in a classic case of one person's trash is another's treasure, the dirty fatty fluid is a precious resource at Peats.
So we go to companies like Veolia and Cleanaway and Remondis and all those bigger companies that have contracts to go around to McDonald's and KFC, etc., and collect the washdown fats. So it's not the cooking oils fats that we're concentrating on. We've concentrated on the dirty fats. And of course they are dirty because they're full of grit and slime and all the stuff.
The dirty liquid is separated and sprayed onto the compost heaps. What's left in the tank is the greasy solid material, and that's useful for the on-site biodiesel plant.
You ready? Yep. On its way.
Okay, so what we're seeing pumping into the plant is the grease from the grease trap waste. It holds in about 30% solids and water, which are basically held in an emulsion. The fat will start to heat up and come out with the heat.
So this is the fat here, there's yellow stuff all through here.
That's correct, and you can see that it's trying to get out. We've just got to get rid of those solids to really force the issue.
Okay, so we're going to have a look at the biofuel plant in here then?
That's right, we'll show you the first part of the process.
Mike Giradini has long worked in the biodiesel industry. He's now a consultant with Pete Waterwitz's biofuel project.
What we're seeing in the plant here is effectively this loop. So the product goes from this end, the solids are taken out, the water's taken out, and then we come through the reaction. So reaction is really the special part of the process where we're mixing the stuff with ethanol in the presence of a catalyst.
It's early days, but the plan is to produce more than 1 million litres of biodiesel a year, which would be enough to fuel the company's 16 prime movers, 9 front-end loaders and other on-site equipment. Mike Giuradini says the reason this project should succeed where others have failed is that they don't have to pay for the raw material.
It's a matter of economics, I think. When we first started looking at biodiesel, the price of the feedstock or the oil was probably about half of what it is now. Now the case is that about 80% of the cost of producing biodiesel is the oil that goes into it. We've got a bit of a different model here because we're fully vertically integrated. The fat is already coming into Peats. There's no additional cost of him to then take out that fat to then put into the biodiesel process. So we're looking at a full vertical integration model that just has completely different economics.
Well, around the world there's a big problem with this fat. I mean, most countries don't know what to do with this dirty fat. They can do the cooking oils, and that seems to be very successful around the world, but so many places have got not a solution for this dirty, greasy fat. So we think that by a combination of our biodiesel, composting, growing the sorghum, etc., we can actually link the whole lot into a real, true, commercial, circular economy.
The sorghum he refers to is growing up the road, the sugars of which will be turned into ethanol to blend with the biodiesel.
You believe in climate change or you don't, it's about pollution, and that's what's driving this.
The next step is to power the whole operation with gases produced from an on-site anaerobic digester. But that might have to be a story for another day when it's completely up and running. Told you, he's an ideas man.